now check out the differences between the two units among the parameters shown in the screen, like the number of amps, cabs and microphones built in, third-party IRs availability, number of effects and effect chain management, audio inputs and output, etc. Before starting, please notice that here I will mention the info about the Helix Stadium, putting in brackets the differences with the Stadium XL, as the normal Stadium, in my opinion, is more comparable to the Quad Cortex, especially in terms of price. First of all, we have 96 amps in the Quad Cortex with 13 dedicated to the bass guitar. Then we have 62 guitar and 8 bass cabinets, and we can choose among 11 different mics that we can place over the cabinet in whatever position we want. On the other hand, the Helix offers 152 amps, considering also the channels. In fact, in the Quad Cortex, each channel has a specific amp block, where in the Helix the channel is a parameter of the amp. Then we have 38 guitars, 8 bass cabinets and 12 mics that we can place over the cabinet in whatever position we want. Here it is worth noticing that the Helix typically offers more tweakability for each amp, as for instance we can set the bias, the sag, etc. So here I would give a thumbs up to the Helix, having more choices of amps and offering more tweakability. Of course, here we are talking just about specs and not sound quality, which will be considered later on in the video. In terms of profiling, this is currently a feature offered only by the Quad Cortex, both locally and on the cloud. Line 6 should add this feature in the future, but as of today, thumbs up to the Cortex. And I think that amp profiling is really a must-have feature, especially for flagship devices like these ones. Both the unit offer the possibility to load third-party IRs, and we have 2048 user slot in the Quad Cortex and thousands in the Helix, having also an SD card slot that we can attach. The Quad Cortex manages IRs at 1024 sample points, where the Stadium allows us to load IRs at 2048 sample points. It is actually not clearly stated anywhere that the Quad Cortex runs IRs at 1024 sample points, but it was written in the user manual that if we load our own IR, it is gonna be truncated at 1024 sample points. So here I would give the thumbs up to the Helix. Furthermore, the Quad Cortex manages 256 presets and scenes for gapless switching as the Helix, that on the other hand offers 512 presets. So thumbs up to the Helix that offers more presets. As regards effects, the Quad Cortex has more than 120 effects distributed in 32 blocks that we can arrange in 4 parallel sets of effects, DSP power permitting. You can check the number of effects for each category in the chart. On the other hand, the Stadium has more than 420 effects that we can arrange in 48 blocks distributed in 4 parallel sets of effects, DSP power permitting. For both of them we can replicate many times the same effects. I would say that the limit is our imagination and of course the DSP power. Here I would add that in terms of type of effects, the Helix has more offer for each category, and typically each effect is more tweakable, has more customization options. Furthermore, we can place more blocks in the chain, so here I would give the thumbs up to the Stadium. Both offers MIDI I/O connectivity. In terms of input and outputs, there are two main differences in my opinion. The normal Stadium offers SPDIF instrument input and one mic XLR input, where the Quad Cortex offers 2 combo inputs, allowing us to drive 2 mics, which is great if you are a guitarist and a singer, and for instance you want to drive one mic for the voice and the other for your acoustic guitar. Of course, the Stadium XL has also 2 stereo FX loop, and the Quad and the normal Stadium offers just 1 stereo loop. Here I would give the thumbs up to the Quad Cortex, as I really love the possibility to drive 2 condenser mics with this unit. The Quad Cortex has 11 dual function foot switches, meaning that they can serve also as a rotary knob in order to change parameters, where the Helix has 12 foot switches. The Stadium XL has also scribbled stripes over the foot switches that are really nice. The Quad Cortex has 2 inputs for external foot switches or expression pedals, where the normal Stadium has 1 input for external foot switches. So here, in my opinion, they are pretty much on pair, as the normal Stadium has 1 more foot switch, but the Quad Cortex has 1 more external controller input. So it really depends from our needs. In terms of screen, they are pretty similar, but the Stadium has a bigger screen. The Quad Cortex manages longer looper. As regards ADA conversion and USB capabilities, they are pretty much equivalent, but the Stadium offers USB-C connectivity, and this is, in my opinion, a big plus. I don't understand why Neural decided to use such an old and bulky USB connection. So thumbs up to the Stadium, as USB-C is much more user-friendly, in my opinion. You can read the latency values in the screen, considering an empty signal chain and a signal chain with a tube screamer, an amp, a cab plus delay and reverb. The ADA conversion is a bit faster in the Quad Cortex, where when we add amps and effect blocks, the Stadium has a little advantage. If we use the external loop, the ADA trip advantage of the Quad Cortex translates also in better latency value for the external loop. Nonetheless, these values are not best in class, as we have devices like Boss or the NAND player which are at around 1 millisecond of latency, and that's why I would give a thumbs down to both the units. I would not further discuss this topic here, as I have specific videos in the channel and this topic really needs time to be properly discussed. As regards special features, I would mention the Wi-Fi capabilities of the Quad Cortex that allows us to do firmware updates and upload and download presets and IRs in and from the cloud. Among the Stadium special features, I will mention the Bluetooth connectivity, the SD card slot, the Wi-Fi capability also to perform firmware update like the Quad Cortex. Furthermore, there are even more special features for the Helix that would take a lot of time to mention. But here, what I found really handy is the possibility to connect the computer app via Wi-Fi to the Helix. This is really super useful, even because the Helix is pretty bulky, and so we can place it where we want and just connect it to the computer app via Wi-Fi. Pretty cool. This is also the reason why I would give the thumbs up to the Stadium here. Then we have the power needs, where the Helix has an internal PSU and the Quad Cortex has an external one. The Quad Cortex, on the other hand, seems to be more efficient, as it draws 18 watts instead of the max 90 of the Helix, as written on the back of the unit. Here I have a mixed feeling, but well, it's up to you to decide whether you prefer external or internal power supplies, but for sure I prefer units that draws less power. As regards the dimension and weight, the Helix is bigger and heavier, even because the Quad Cortex has an external power adapter. The Stadium seems quite a bulky unit, where the Quad Cortex, also thanks to its anodized aluminum chassis with those very nice edges, looks nice and premium. I mean, it has that Apple fashion that I honestly appreciate a lot. Of course, this is just a matter of taste. And finally, the price, which is similar in dollars but not in euro, where the Stadium is more expensive. Of course, here I'm considering the regular Stadium and not the XL, which is far more expensive. So, summarizing, if we sum up the thumbs up and down for both the Quad Cortex and the Helix, we have 8 thumbs up and 8 thumbs down for the Quad Cortex, and 9 thumbs up and 7 thumbs down for the Stadium. Of course, this is just an algebraical sum, without considering that each dimension in the chart could have a different importance for each of us. For instance, the form factor of the Quad Cortex is more important for me than having more preset slots in the Helix. In my final 2 cents section of this video, we will discuss the pros and cons even further. Let's now hear some more sounds. Welcome in the more sound section of this video. Let me briefly explain the test we are gonna do. First of all, we will compare both the modelers versus a real Soldano SLO 100 using the riffs of the demo song. I have used the first channel of the amp with the gain at 10 and the treble at 6. Of course, I have recorded a DI track that then I have sent to the real amp and the modelers from my DAW. Furthermore, I have used the same IR for all the units. My initial intention was to set up the modelers using the exact same settings of the real amp, no tweaking by my side in order not to introduce bias. But the Stadium had so much highs compared to the real deal that I had to cut them, setting them to 3 instead of 6. All the other parameters are the same. We'll hear the real amp and then the modelers, and I have also left among the testing tracks the one of the Stadium with a treble at 6, so that you can evaluate yourself the sound with the exact same settings of the real amp. For the Quad Cortex, I will let you hear both the modeled amp and also the amp profiled by me, with a Neural DSP Cloud Profiler version 2. Let's hear the tones. And now I would like to let you hear a lead tone using also the effects of the two units. I'm using a simulation of a Marshall Plexi with the same IR for both the units. There is also a tube screamer in front of the amp and a plate reverb and a ping-pong delay at the end of the signal chain. I have set up the units with the exact same settings, even if for the effects, especially the reverb, we have very different plate reverb knobs, and also the impact on the sound is pretty different. The Quad Cortex effects, generally speaking, are more gentle, where the Helix has more luscious sounds, I would say. Here really personal preferences are what matters. Let's hear the tones. Let's now jump to my final consideration. Final considerations here, and please notice that these are gonna be my personal opinions for my specific use cases, and you may not agree with me, and this is totally fine. Let me also add that I have purchased these units with my own money, and I'm not paid nor sponsored by neither Line 6 and Neural DSP. Amp sounds. Well, in my opinion so far, for the amps I have tested, I found that the Quad Cortex is a bit more close to the real amp, just using the same amp settings. For instance, for the Stadium Soldano, as you may have heard in the more sound section of this video, I had to cut the highs by half, as with the same setting of the original amp it was way more bright. Furthermore, currently the Quad Cortex has also the profiling capability, which allows us to duplicate our specific signal chain with my own mic pre's, etc., which is the fruit of years of researches and tests. This is a big plus. Line 6 should add this capability in the future, but until it will not be available, this is a big plus for the Quad Cortex, in my opinion. On the other hand, I want to mention that the Stadium is more tweakable than the Quad Cortex. For instance, we can set the bias, the sag, etc. So if you are a nerdy amp tweaker with the Stadium, you can really have fun. It is not at the same level of the Fractal units, but close. In terms of effects, the Stadium once again offers more tweakability and more options than the Quad Cortex. We have more effect blocks, more effect types, more possibility to customize the effects, etc. Of course, we can get very good results also with the Quad Cortex, but the Stadium has undeniably more options. Generally speaking, I found the Quad Cortex effects more gentle and the Stadium ones more luscious, so to say. But these are of course personal preferences. Home recording. Well, here the units are pretty similar with 8 USB channels. I simply prefer the USB-C connectivity of the Stadium, that is more user-friendly as it is reversible and allows me to connect it to my Mac without any conversion cable, which is nice. Honestly, I don't understand why Neural decided to put an old USB port on the Quad Cortex. Live use. Well, here I would say that it really depends on our needs. I'm perfectly fine with the Quad Cortex and with units without the expression pedals more in general. The Stadium has one more foot switch, but it has one input for external controllers instead of the two of the Quad Cortex. The XL has of course more options and also two input for external controllers and also the treble stripes, but I honestly prefer a lighter and more compact unit like the Quad Cortex, as I always prefer to travel with the lighter setup possible. Workflow and easiness of use. Here, for me, the Stadium has a little advantage, which is the wireless computer app. It's very nice to be able to connect the unit via Wi-Fi to the computer app, without the need to have it over your desktop. I think it is a nice touch, and one less cables on our desktop that goes to our computer. The more I use it, the more I like it. All in all, if I had to choose, well, it would be a very hard decision. Let me first of all say that this is totally personal, and you can even skip this section if you don't want to be influenced by just personal opinions. Well, at the very end, I would go with the Quad Cortex for the following reasons. The first one is the profiling procedure available in the Quad Cortex. Yeah, I have spent thousands of money for being able to record my tones. I am a preamp nerd, and the level of satisfaction I get putting in a modeler the signal chain I have dreamed of since I was a child with my mic, my own mic pre's, etc. is unparalleled. So until the profiling features will not be available in the Stadium, for sure the Quad Cortex for me is the unit to go. The second reason, in terms of pure tone, especially for the Soldano that I use a lot, is that I found the Quad Cortex more close to the real deal, where the Stadium has more high frequencies. And then the last reason is the look and feel of the units. I mean, the Quad Cortex has that Apple look with a very nice anodized aluminum chassis with the curved edges and that very nice space gray color. Still, after more than 2 years that I own this unit, every time I see it, I need to use it. It is so cool and nice looking that makes me want to play. I know this is maybe a superficial opinion, but the more I grow up, the more I like nice looking things. I mean, the more the physical aspect becomes important, from guitars to guitar pedal to amps and amp modelers. I want to be surrounded by beautiful things that inspire me to play. And you know, there is a strong link between art and beauty. The Stadium looks a bit more bulkier and ordinary compared to the Quad Cortex. As I said, this is a totally personal. And now it's your turn. Please let me know your precious and valuable opinions in the comment section below. I'm very curious to hear what would you choose and which are the key selling points for you for both of the units. I'm one and you are almost 50,000, so you are the greatest and more valuable resource of this channel. Let me hear your voice in the comment below. We have now reached the end of this video. Hope you enjoyed, and if you did, please subscribe to my channel, ring the notification bell and leave a thumb up, as it would be of great help. Thank you so much for watching, and see you soon in the next video. Bye bye.